This stream is cleared for takeoff. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone who's tuned in for this developer Q&A. It's nice to see so many familiar faces and a lot of new ones too, so glad you can join us. We do have a new face that you can probably see, so let's go ahead and do some introductions. I am Jane. I'm the Senior Community Manager for Microsoft Flight Simulator. And below me, of course, we have Jorg Newman. Jorg, how are you?
Hi, y'all. Great to be back.
Yes, and next to Jorg, we have Seb. How are you, Seb?
Hello, I'm fine.
Good. And finally, we have a new face, David. David, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and a little bit about who you are, since it's your first time with us on this stream.
Hello, everyone. I'm David Doden. I'm Creative Director at Asobo Studio. Super happy to present you today a little bit of the behind the scene of what we did with Rhino ARS.
Glad to have you. Yes, so this stream is going to be a little different. We're going to break up the Q&A sections a few ways. We're going to talk about Game of the Year edition that we announced yesterday. We're going to talk about Reno, go more in depth into that, and some other surprises, and then get into our final Q&A at the end. So Q&As throughout for Reno and Game of the Year. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to switch screens here to talk, Jorg, if you want to talk a little bit more about Game of the Year and what's happening with it.
Yeah, hi everybody, great to see you again. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you saw, but yesterday we had a pretty big day. We released Sim Update 6, and it warmed our heart to see all the positive feedback, and we're very happy that you all are enjoying it. I just want to do a shout out to all the people who helped us during the flighting. That helped a lot. There were a few thousand of you, so that was great. And as we said before, we're going to expand those types of things next year. So we're going to have longer flighting periods. And I think we're just going to have a much better process going forward for sim updates, and let have you guys participate. Then we shared some big news yesterday. We announced the ship date or the release date for Reno Air Races on November 18th. And as David just said, he's going to go into quite a bit of detail today. So if you're curious about that, you're going to get a first glance of how this is all really going to come together. And then we also have what hopefully was a delightful surprise. We announced the Game of the Year edition for Flight Sim. And yeah, in some ways, it's a celebration for all the positive feedback we've gotten from you all, from core simmers, from newcomers, from the press, and we won a bunch of Game of the Year awards. But what it really is, what it's meant to be, is a thank you to all of you. And I really mean that. We feel the core simming community has really embraced the sim, and you believe in our 10-year journey that we always talk about. You waited for improvements. You celebrated when we had wins. You were tolerant when we made some mistakes. But fundamentally, this is for you guys, and we try to put something together that is a nice package. And obviously, for all of you who already have the sim, it's going to be free. So if we just look at this real quick. We did some of this already yesterday. If you go to the next slide, Jane. Oh yeah, this just was our new visual ID, but this is what really is in the sim. So there's a Boeing F-18 Super Hornet. This initially was planned to come out with Top Gun Maverick, but as we all know, the movie, which I hear from Paramount, is awesome. Obviously, we're gonna have to wait a little bit more, but we thought people really want to play, so let's just put out the plane now. So Sobo did this plane. I think we're quite proud of it. There's also 2 airports that are coming basically with it. The Patrick Space Force Base, which was renamed, and then the Marine Corps Air Station in Miramar. And then the next plane is the Porter, the PC-6 from Pilatus. It's a famous plane, awesome stall plane. We have quite a bit of variations. It's been developed by Hans Hartmann and Alexander Metzger. So you know those guys probably from the CRJ that they made for Airsoft. They're working with us also on the ATR. But this Pilatus was in development for quite a long time. For a long time, we thought this might be a payware plane, but we're gifting. So here we go. So this is coming to the Game of the Year edition. It comes in several different versions. There's a wheels with classic cockpit, wheels with glass cockpit, skis with classic cockpit, and a float with glass cockpit. So it's quite elaborate. and I think you're going to like it a lot. Then Cup Crafters, the NX Cup, which is basically, we have an awesome relationship with Cup Crafters. They're right around the corner here in Yakima. And they said to us, hey, you know, we have a new version of the X Cup coming out. Do you want to put it into the sim? We're like, oh, sure, awesome. You know, so those things will happen ever so often that a manufacturer wants us to do something. That's awesome, right? That's what we want. And then ultimately we can give those things away to you just straight through for free. The Volocopter is something we announced at Gamescom. Fascinating company, the eVTOL that they're making called Volo City. And so it's an urban air taxi. And it was just really cool because the team at Asobo gets to basically collaborate straight with the engineering team that makes the real aircraft for Volocopter. And so that's our first sort of pinpoint landing. It's not quite a helicopter, as you know, but it's sort of the first one where you can do pinpoint landings. Should be quite exciting. It's like a glimpse of what we're doing in 2022 when we bring out helicopters. And then there's an Aviat Special S1S, so the one-seater version of one of our most popular planes, which also should be just fun. And then the next slide shows a little bit more on what we're doing with airports. Ta-da. So we have, so as I said, Asobo made 2, and then our partner that does a lot of the airports for World Updates, Gaia, is contributed Zurich and Lugano, both super cool. And then we have a new partner, Flight Sim Studios, and they contributed 4, Kassel, Leipzig, Beromünster, and Memmingen. And on top of that, we have 6 new Discovery flights that are actually made by Perfect Flight, and then 14 new tutorials that are in collaboration between Asobo and FS Academy, which is another new partner that we have. And then Bing contributed, they have new Bing cities that they could make available. So we have new cities in England. We have Helsinki, which we really tried hard for World Update 5. It just came in too late. And so we have 5 cities in England, something in Germany, Freiburg, where I studied, and then another city in Holland. So overall, and then there's new features, and we are pleased to be able to give those to you. You wanted the replay system, DX12, weather updates. We'll talk about this in a little bit more detail, I think, in the Q&A probably. But there are early versions of some of these things. So, but it's cool that I think the Sim Update 7 that comes out at the same time with the Game of the Year edition has all these things in it. Mm-hmm. All right, so that was...
And it's free, just to mention it. It's free. Because I see people in the chat wondering if it's free or not. If you already bought Microsoft Flight Sim, it's free.
Let's go to so because this is a lot of information we did, and honestly, it was funny when we talked to marketing, we're like, hey, we're announcing this and this and this. And it actually gets complicated to get the message straight. So let's spend a little bit of time answering questions just related to...
So if anyone has questions about the Game of the Year, feel free to type it in chat. The first question I had, Jorg, is a lot of people are wondering, is this Game of the Year edition replacing the standard edition of the Sim?
It is, yeah. So basically, if you think about it, like the standard edition is essentially all different SKUs, right? There's a premium and premium deluxe. They all include standard. So we're basically bolstering the standard edition with 5 new planes, 8 new airports. It also comes to Game Pass that way. So it really supplants the old standard edition. Mm. But everybody who has any edition gets all this content for free.
Fantastic. Turning my mic up because I hear I'm quiet. Question from I see in chat and also asked in the forums. Does the arrival of the Super Hornet in Microsoft Flight Simulator mean native supersonic flight and support for collimated HUDs?
I saw a lot of questions on the F-18. So the F-18 is fairly realistic in the flight models. The maximum speed curve goes from Mach 1 at sea level up to Mach 1.6, around, I think, 30,000 feet, and then it goes back down, just like the real one. Supersonic, if you're at the right altitude, the fuel consumption is correct, the acceleration is correct. It has all new fly-by-wire model, which respects the different maximum G-forces. It has the button where you can switch from maximum 7.5, I think, to 9. It has 2 fly-by-wire modes, just like the rear one. For one, which is when you pull out the flaps, it goes into AOA hold mode instead of load factor hold mode. It has the auto throttle. It has All the roll weights are correct. I mean, by the POH, the way it feels, the handles, and the flight model, it's very realistic. So yeah, it's got supersonic. So I usually don't do a lot of because I'm in the large office. I don't do a lot of audio, but I think that it has the boom, supersonic boom. It's got and the cockpit has all the glass cockpits, etc. There's the 3D sort of transparent holographic cockpit. It's a very, very realistic flight model and to the POH.
And Wami's asking, is the HUD collimated?
What?
Is the HUD collimated?
I don't know what that means.
That's all right. We can review that question and probably answer that.
I think it means. I think the question is does. I think it means the question is does the cockpit do the holographic HUD thing? And the answer is yes. We did a engine big improvement in order to make this possible, and this will, by the way, be accessible for the third party. So now it's possible to do this type of display in the sim for everyone.
There were quite a few third parties that wanted this, so this is a lot of this. When we do an update, it obviously benefits everybody. So that was a highly requested feature from third parties that make military planes.
Yes. Next question I have is the DX12 preview. What differences can we expect with DX12?
So I just got the answer. So this is going to be in the options menu. Basically, when you boot up the sim, normally you're going to be in 11. And if you decide to opt in, you're going to have to switch it on in the options menu. Mm-hmm. Probably we're going to link it if you crash back with the safe mode, which is going to revert because if you're a driver or whatever, if you have a crash and once you're in the DX12 and you can't switch back, that would be a problem. And then so currently at the moment, unless the driver or graphics card or whatever is more optimized in DirectX 12, performance should be the same. So we didn't do anything special. I mean, we have to redo a lot of things in DirectX 12, but not in a way that it would be super more performant or whatever. Currently, this is really just a DirectX 12 version of the same thing. The goal here is to find issues because there's so many use cases, so many between all the configurations. We already know that there is some bugs in DirectX 12 only in VR, which we are looking at right now. Mm-hmm. And we made it opt-in because it's very likely that there's going to be stuff that is not going to work on specific graphic card or whatever on specific configurations. And as we debug this, at some point maybe we're going to make DirectX 12 the default or whatever. We're going to find once it's stable enough. But currently it's opt-in. It's in the options menu where you switch it on. And we have had some testing. Graphic card manufacturers have had some testing. But it's almost obvious that we can't test all possible configurations on ourselves. So there's going to be issues to report, and we hope people are going to report issues just like when there is a flighting or something like this, if they have any, even small things. I don't know, like shimmerings or resolution issues, anything they see on DirectX 12, so that we can address it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. JMB says, are the Windows 11 celebration locations a secret or like a scavenger hunt, or are they listed anywhere?
Good idea to make it a secret. Unfortunately, we made a video. So I don't know. I don't actually know if that video is out, but I know we made it with all the 11 locations. So not that much of a secret.
Okay.
But it comes with a cool livery for the X-Plus V30.
I do like it. Next question, will the new Game of the Year planes included be able to be modded by the community, or are they DMR restricted?
So typically we don't put a DRM on the base thing. I mean, there was a very good conversation last time we had this chat where somebody said, hey, we don't need the model, we just need the CFG file. And we've had a conversation about it. We're not quite locked yet, but in general, we like what's going on with a bunch of the modding, right? Salties, certainly Fly-by-Wire. That's what Working Title did at the beginning. A bunch of others. So I'm all for it. We just need to find the exact right balance. Just to be clear, because I think it's not quite clear to everybody, some of the manufacturers don't want us to do this. You can probably imagine which ones. So we just need to double check with them before we unlock something that essentially is owned by them. But our intent is that everybody can mod as much as possible. So we'll get back to you on the specifics.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, regarding the new tutorials, will there be any expanded tutorials on the A320 or default 747 to help new simmers?
David?
It's not what we have focused on, not yet on airliners. We basically added two types of tutorials, one with the Icon and the other one with the Cessna. But the key aspect of it is the G1000. And this basically lead the beginners to be able to fly, especially IFR, which is already a big step forward in order to go deeper into the simulation and aviator skills. So airliners improvement will come later. Tutorial, sorry. Yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you. And Kyle David from chat says, what do you guys mean by reworked weather system for the Game of the Year edition?
What we know that we knew that we needed to improve the weather, especially for vaccine simmers, because the meta implementation was not perfect. And we took advantage of this pass we were doing on the weather, on the revamp of the weather, in order to improve the whole system. Mm-hmm. Basically, the intent is to have a much fresher data coming from the weather. Before, it was a big forecast for basically half a day, and users were actually downloading all of that all together. But basically, the forecast was, when you were playing, at some point, the forecast was 6 hours late, I would say. Now it will be refreshed much more frequently, so we will benefit for much more accurate weather data. And on top of this, the metadata will going to be blended into those better weather data forecast. So as a result, we already have correct wind, temperature, pressure on each airport. We are right now working on the most correct implementation we can do visually, because obviously when there is sometimes there is no difference, but sometimes there is a difference between the data of the forecast and that we are using and the metadata. So we are working on the blending on this. Mm-hmm. So that's the intent, and we've done huge progress in that, and I think vaccine players will be excited with what we are doing right now.
Yeah, in general, weather, we all agree, weather is super important. That's why we have Media Blue. They're a really great partner for this. We know that the role-playing part is really important, that the meta is right. So that's the focus, and we will see, there's this transition you have to do between the metadata and the forecast data, and it's that getting that visually to be perfect is just a tricky, finicky thing. But fundamentally, you should expect that the meta is right.
Yes. Last question I was seeing, are there going to be any more videos or footage released of the FA-18 before it comes out?
Yeah, we're going to make a trailer. At some point, we're going to make a trailer again. But yeah, but we just finished. I mean, did you see the crazy 8-minute trailer we did for the Reno races? That took quite a while. Mm-hmm. So we're going to get busy in the next few weeks.
Do we know if it has Afterburner FX on it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and correct afterburner consumption, correct afterburner thrusts. Mm-hmm. So yeah, consumption thrusts, accelerations have all been tuned exactly to the POH.
Fantastic. All right, let's move on to talk about the Reno air races. York, I believe you had something to say before we.
I just wanted to say, it's, why Reno? Like I hear that sometimes internally, sometimes from some of you. We try to embrace our history, and when you look at FSX, one of the things that the team had done at ACES was the acceleration pack. Actually, I've been standing right behind me. It was quite fun. The acceleration pack was actually an FA-18, and then it was it was Reno Air Races and Red Bull Air Races. And there was a point in time before we launched on PC, so before 2020, we said, let's just do this. Let's embrace our history and go there again. But then as we looked at it, it's cool, but it was probably a little bit more shallow than what we thought was appropriate. So we said, let's just double down on Reno. And we started talking to the Reno folks, the RARA folks, about 2 years ago, and really wanted to get it right. We basically decided at the time there were 6 race types. We said we're going to pick 4, and then we would make a plane per class, but then go deep on those planes. Basically, go really either model them really well or even scan them, which we did for a whole bunch of them, and then collaborate with the pilots and the owners of the individual. And it's been awesome. When you think of the journey, we got to talk to like the 40 of the world's most famous racers, and we got to actually look at their planes, visit them, scan them, et cetera, and we try to reproduce this as accurately as humanly possible. Mm-hmm. And so that's what Reno is. And then, by the way, we're the first, because we always have to license everything. I think we're the first sim ever that actually got a license from Aero Votoccioli. Took a long time. And we maybe one last thought. We partnered with quite a few people, right? I think I saw yesterday in the forums, people said, "Man, how did they do 40 planes?" Yeah, it took a lot. And honestly, we started with a gentleman, his name is Mike Johnson, who did an L39 years ago, a really good one, and he helped us with all the specifics. He knows all the racers. And then we had help even on the modeling and execution side. So that might come as a surprise. So we had Blue Mesh helped us. Jimmy is here, I think. So hey, thank you, Jimmy. The Miss Virginia looks great. We had help from Orbex. They made several planes. And we also had help from A2A. Scott's team did a great job with a couple of the P-51s. So this is really, it was a massive effort, right? When you think about it, 40 freaking planes accurately modeled. But yeah, with all that said, David, by the way, I saw a few times who's David, where's Martial. David is the creative director at Asobo, and you haven't seen him quite as much. Maybe at the very first event, Global Preview event, he was there and he needed to be there. In order to not blow up this forum, we typically just pick 3 people. And Martial, given that we want to focus today on Reno and all the work that went into it, David is here and is going to be with us the entire time. So enjoy, David, and let's go. Let's look at it.
So about Reno. So to start with, we are super proud and excited to release the Reno Race expansion quite soon now. So just to summarize, for those who might not know exactly what is Reno is a race, is a racing event which happens every year at the Reno State Airport in Nevada. Simply put, it's just the fastest motor race in the world. So I think the current record reached a mind-blowing 497 miles per hour, which is just, if you think about it, it's just crazy. And this happens very close to the ground and with 8 planes racing all together. So it's easy to say that in this context, the piloting skills are put to the extreme limit. And it's exactly what we have tried to reproduce in the scene. But we know it's more than that. As you mentioned, this race features iconic planes, and each of them are literally unique. I mean, really unique. You know, it's not industrial planes. Each of them are actually custom by a team of passionate pilots and engineers. And to at a point that, to give you an order of magnitude, quite often the Reno Air Race planes are going twice faster than the stock version of the same plane. So the engineering behind it is just crazy. So regarding the race itself, it features different class so Jane is actually showing what all the reference work that has been made for this expansion. Mm-hmm. So all of this has been gathered thanks to the pilot and the teams we have worked with. And you can see that each of those planes are actually different. Here we see P50, so now a T6, but none of them is actually a stock T6. Each of them are different cockpits, different wing tips, different even sometimes shapes. So this was a huge amount of work, and really it was fascinating to see the amount of work in the actual plane has been put, and each of the plane in the sim will gonna be reproduced with the right spec and right mesh, extra. I wanted to talk about the place itself, because as I was saying, it happens quite close to the ground. So Jane, if you can launch the before-after video, please. Because it involves different things. Basically, we have improved the satellite data.
Oh.
Yeah, please,
yeah.
Jane, help me. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so as you can see, we have improved so this is before, this is after. So the mountains have been better defined, the ground has been better defined. This is the Reno Steed Airport before, this is after the update we did. It's not only about the airport itself, it's also about the event. So we have added the crowd. And you can see the beginning of the actual plane list. So all of this to mention that it's also it's just not only the race. So by the way, for example, we'll have the speaker of the actual event, and it will comment what you're doing during the race. You will also have your team leader that will inform you during the race.
Yeah. So
the goal here was
the same caster that does Reno is doing it.
Exactly.
Too. That's cool.
So it really gives a specific flavor to it and a very great immersion.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go to the airless flow now, because I wanted to go a little bit deeper into what it is actually, how it will going to be presented.
Sure.
Yeah. So in the activity menu, so this is the menu of the iOS itself. So as you can see, we have rules, we have race and leaderboards. So sometimes the rules are, kind of complex, at least on paper. Actually, in game, it's quite simple to get into it, but we added those pages in order to make everyone comfortable on how it works. So you can see here the different types of tracks, depending of the class, how quick match works, how time trial works. So typically in quick match, the playing performance will be normalized in order to let everyone have the same chance to win. Some explanation about the warnings, because you cannot cut the gates, you can't go too high. Here is the page about the pit special, so the biplane class, which has a specific procedures for departures, which is different from the rest. Extra explanation of the UI. So let's move on. It was just a short parenthesis in order to explain the full flow. So as you can see, there is a Reno score. So basically it works a little bit like a Elo score. So each time you do a race, we take an account the Reno score of the other racers, and depending on the result, it will inform your own Reno score. So and it's something that lasts. So the more race you win, the better your Reno score will going to be, and also depending on the racer you have beaten. So this is let's have a look on the flow of it. So quick match, you select your class. So in this case, unlimited, which is P51. There is different plane to select. So in this case, it's Miss America. You find the lobby, you go into the race, move on. This is the waiting for the race. So you can see who is who, which plane they are using, and how the lobby will then be fulfilled with people. So qualification starts. In real life, it's a little bit more complex than what was done, but in order to make it more seamless and comfortable and enjoyable for everyone, we just do one lap of qualification, which defines your position on the grid at the beginning of the race itself. So as soon as it's done, as you can see on the right of the screen, you will go for the race itself. Obviously, we'll share later how the race itself works. So you can see here a little bit of the UI. I will come back to this later. And when the race is finished, we wait for the other user to cross the line. If it's too long, we stop the race anyway, and you have your final position, and your Reno score is in form. As you can see on the right of the screen, the red column, you can see the other players' Reno score, which will be seen in form. If you beat a very good pilot, you will have a better increment on your Reno score, extra. You will also break down the Reno score into each different class, so M9, T6, biplane, and jet, and this feeds the global Reno score at the end. So this was for the presentation of the flow. Let's go into a bit more on the gameplay side. So this is a pit special, just few seconds of gameplay, but you can see that in this case we were only 3 racers, but it goes up to 8. You can see a little bit how the UI works. Pit special are typically planes which are super agile. So in this case, it's really about maneuverability. So you can see the exact same race, but seen from another point of view. So you can use the quick lock button in order to see what happens. Oh, Jane, we have switched to something completely different.
Sure. Do you want to go back to the last video here?
Yeah, this is interesting. Yeah, please. We restart from the beginning, maybe. It's not a big. Let's continue like this. So you can see we have implemented UI in order to in the world UI in order to help people to figure out where are the gates, etc. But if you want, you can hide them if you want to be really true to life. Honestly, at the beginning, I recommend to use it. It's easier. You can already, I will come back to this later, but you can already see a little bit the effect of the drag. So it's not at all like in Formula One. You know, in Formula One, you will, or car racing, you will be, in general, you will try to be behind the other car in order to benefit from the aspiration of the previous car. In this case, it's the exact opposite. You need to absolutely avoid the drag of the place in front of you. So this is an image from the T6 class. So in this case, T6 are basically very old plane. Mm-hmm. And in this case, it's really about trying to minimize as much as possible the drag of your plane. So it's really about being super gentle with the plane, and except when you need to avoid. So typically in this case, in the video, in order to avoid the other plane, he had to make a very brutal turn, which, as I was describing, increase a lot the load factor on the plane. And with those planes, you will lose a lot of speed, which is not great, not good to win the race. So other example was the T6 class. And as you can see, it's
will
really...
Will the race work in VR also?
Sure, there is no reason it doesn't work. To be honest, we still need to debug some stuff on it, but yeah, sure, it's the goal. Typically in first-person view, it makes it really incredible, but yeah. Well, mm-hmm. So maybe you have seen that we have added some FX. I will come back also to this later. But when you go really close to the ground, we have added the dust effect. Basically, the impact of the drag on the ground, which tends to make some dust fly. So here there's a bit of internal view. So now the P51. You've seen just before the fact that the plane shake just because of the previous plane, and it doesn't really convey. It doesn't really perceive. It's hard to really see it in the video, but I guarantee that when you actually pilot the plane, being behind another plane is really dangerous.
Mm.
And sometimes as a result, you crash. So obviously we do not end the race because of that. We just respawn the user back on track. And
Mm-hmm.
so this video is actually about the replication in online multiplayer. So for Reno, because it's so precise and because planes are so close to each other, we needed to make it super, super precise and accurate. And a huge amount of work has been made in order to do this. So the plane you see in front of the plane we are in is actually this exact same plane, but with an offset. And it's the exact same plane, but with the online signal. So what you can observe is that it's super smooth. There is no, catch up.
Mm-hmm.
And it really replicates smoothly the actual player position, rotation, speed, extra.
So with this change to multiplayer, does that affect just...
Exactly. That was my next point.
Yeah.
That was my next point. The good news about it is that obviously it will also be beneficial for any multiplayer activities. So we believe that now, thanks to this improvement, even the formation aerobatic flight and squad flight will going to be much more true to life.
Great. That's fantastic. All right, I have the turbulences video next. Would you like me to put that on?
Yeah. So we've seen a little bit of it in the previous video. So as you can see, the plane jiggles when he's behind the other one. And it's a very important parameters when you are racing, because you need to really take into account the plane in front of you, not only for itself, because obviously if you collide with it, you would be respawned, but also because of this. So you need to observe the other trajectory, which is a very specific thing compared to other type of racing experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's really specific to Reno. Yeah, in this case, so close to the ground, I guarantee you are in danger.
And we have our final video on FX.
Yeah. You can see a bit after the plane goes through, there is some dust which is basically put into the air because of the drag effect of the wing applied to the ground. And it's dust. With this, and again it will also be implemented for the rest. We did also a specific work on the exhaust effect typical to those planes. So with the sounds it makes even better sense because it really capture how those planes actually start up and with the exact same effects. And here's something very cool that comes also on F-18 is the G-lock effect. So this is the black one when you put on the yoke and hop. Now it comes back. So something we don't hear this is that we really respect what happens in real life. So first you will lose the vision. It will gonna get gray, then it's gonna get black, and then you will lose the sound itself. And you will even lose the control. So your plane will live its life until you recover. And there is also the red effect when you go down and the blood goes into the head. So this is the same thing but externally. So because we added this, as you can see on the very bottom left, you can see the G indicators, which indicates how many Gs you take. It was important to do it for Reno because the G's inform the load factor and it informs the speed, or again the drag. So basically how much you damage your speed. And so it was needed to have this indicator. Basically, Reno Racer used it in order to improve their lap speed. Let's see, it will go down, and the red G-lock will appear. So again, we have no sound here, but at some point you lose even the sound and you lose even the control of the plane. You need to hope that it will come back. This one is just while we're preparing so we answered the L39, and we have improved also, because those planes are custom and sometimes they're old, we have improved the effect also of the cockpit. You know, the little scratches on the cockpit, the way it interacts with the sunlight. So it's super cool.
Awesome. That's really, I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us. There are a ton of questions that I'm seeing, and we got lots from the forums as well, so feel free to type in your Reno questions now. We're going to go ahead and answer those. We'll start with some pre-selected ones while we look at chat. And that is, do you need the Xbox Live Gold for Xbox and PC, or just Xbox?
So on PC you can play without gold. Any works. On Xbox, I think it's locked behind gold. So basically, I think the specific is, here comes the list. Xbox with gold has full multiplayer. Xbox with silver cannot participate. Windows with gold and silver can fully participate, and Steam with gold and silver can fully participate.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Can I answer, because I see some question in the chat about the G-lock thing?
Go ahead.
And they noticed that the G-lock was quite fast, but it's because how we capture this was actually quite fast. And it's true that it really depends on time. So we, just to be clear with everyone, we really applied the formulas which have been observed on people. And we were gonna even have in the menu, you can define if you were a G Suite or not, which basically improve your resistance to the G effect, and also your level of training. Basically, you can go from a classic general aviation pilot who never do this to highly trained army pilot, for example, and this makes a big difference. But to be clear, even in this context, if you spend 10 seconds up to 5 or 5, 6 for the best of the pilot, G's during more than 10 seconds, everyone gets black. So if you go and if you're close to the limit, it will only be gray, and if you release the pressure, it will instantly come back. But if you go behind the threshold, you will actually get fully black.
Okay. Very cool. Thank you.
So it's basically, in a nutshell, it's more precise than the video looks like.
Gotcha. Okay. So if you buy the $20 version of the Reno expansion and you later maybe want to get the full collection, is there an upgrade path that might be cheaper than buying it?
It's actually more complicated than this. So yes. So the answer is yes. First off, it's called dynamic bundles. So you can buy, if you get the Reno $20, that gets taken into account if you ever want to upgrade to the full, what we call the full collection. And then, because I think people's head would explode, we didn't put that on our little graphic that we put out yesterday. You can also buy each class, and you can also buy each plane. So you can basically sort of like a smorgasbord of like a menu system of buy what you want, like really. And we try to make that as accessible as possible. That in my mind, so we had a long discussion with the team, because how much should we price an individual plane for? And we are trying to be very conscious of the third-party ecosystem. So we try to not do crazy stuff that then puts pricing pressure on everybody, or it would be unfair. So we basically said, after long discussions, each plane, if you buy an individual plane, is $10. If you buy a class, which comes like 10 planes of a class, I want to say that's $30. So that's $3 a plane. And then if you get the full collection, you get 40 planes. So it's like $1.50 a plane, which is basically, but try to stagger it. You can basically pick what you like.
Okay.
But either purchase you make counts against whatever you do after. Right. So it's a very dynamic system that's basically handled on the back end.
Okay. And can you fly any of these planes just in the base sim and not Reno?
Of course. Sure.
Of course. Okay.
That'd be crazy not to. They're awesome planes.
That is fantastic. So speaking of, are all 40 planes modeled the same? We kind of got into this already. What's the difference besides the liveries? Are there performance differences in each plane?
Oh yeah, we get the plane stats from the pilots and the mechanics. We oftentimes scan them. I mean, we got Steve Hinton, for example, let us come to the Planes of Fame Museum to scan Voodoo, to scan Strega. I think SpamCan was there. We went to Palm Springs, and then a bunch of the individual pilots, like Fred Telling or whoever, like all 40 of them, basically give us full access. And there's daily emails, right? We're making sure that it looks exactly right, that the cockpit is exactly right, that the stats are exactly right. And several of them are going to help us with really testing it to make sure that the plane feels exactly accurate. So yeah, it's as authentic as we can make it.
Okay, and does that performance difference come in the quick match? Is everybody going to be at the same performance or what?
So I will explain this a bit. Basically, whatever the plane you buy or the pack you buy, as soon as you play Reno in quick match, everyone will going to have the same performance, which are defined by the best plane, basically, of the class. But as soon as you play in time trial or you play in free flight, we will have the exact performance of the plane as in real life. And again, keep in mind that each of them are different, so you will have the real specs for each of the plane in free flight and in time trial, with a dedicated leaderboard, by the way.
Okay, great. Will aircraft-to-aircraft crash detection be added?
Yeah, so yes, it's the case in Reno. So what happens in Reno is that when it happens, we just back on track the two players. So it's bad because you will not be in a position to win the race in general. So you need to avoid that at any cost. But when it happens, we just put the players back on track.
Okay. So if users don't buy the planes, will they still get to see them, or do they see generic aircraft when they're flying multiplayer?
Yeah. You will actually the planes, even if you haven't purchased the plane, you will see them in the menu anyway. And if you play against player who have actually buy the for example the collection pack, you will see them in the in-game also during the race. I mean, the only restriction is that you will not be able to play with it, obviously, but otherwise you will be able to at least enjoy the visual of them.
Cool. Thank you. And will the race timing functionality also be released as part of the SDK for use by developers to form their own races?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's our goal, not at the very beginning. Basically, think about this as the first competitive multiplayer thing that you can do in Flight Sim. It's probably not robust enough to put this out right now, but our goal always is that everybody benefits from everything, like that people can make their own races later down the road. There are some other things we're prioritizing right now. I mean, Seb has been writing tons of documents for planes, for plane developers. So that's currently the focus. Racing comes at some later point in time.
Thank you. So will this be multiplayer only, or can you race against AI in a quick match?
No, there is no AI in the Reno Air Race game mode. The intent was really to focus on the competitive aspect of it with real players, so no AI.
Can mods and third-party planes be used for Reno Air Races?
Longer term, that's the goal. Like there are obviously Bearcats and L29s, and I mean there's 7 race modes now in Reno, so we think of this as an expandable thing. And our goal is that third-party planes will be able to do this one day. As I said, it's not wired up this way right now, but that's the goal. Ultimately, Reno is not a static thing, right? The race has been around for a long time. It evolves. I mean, when the jet class was just L39s, well, then they added other classes. So that we want to make that as adaptable as the real world is.
Great. And is there matchmaking in Reno Air Races?
Yeah, so initially it was not the intent because again we wanted to have as many people in the lobbies and in order to really focus on the Reno score extra. But yes, we will probably in the few moments after the official release, we will probably come back with a customizable game mode in order to unlock some options like being able to play with the actual real life performance of each lanes, extra, and set the weather, set tons of different things in order to really be able to customize your race. But this will not be the case at the release.
Okay.
We'll work on it later.
Yeah. So it sounds like once Reno comes out, you're already planning some updates post-release.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all acknowledge multiplayer is hard. We always said like there will be undoubtedly some things that we'll get feedback and people want us to fix, and then the private lobbies is something, private matchmaking is something we're going to add. We don't have a particular date on it. Like we will certainly try to get this done, hopefully by the end of the year, but let's not commit. Let's not overcommit, but we want to do it.
Yeah. Question from chat, maybe in the update to Reno, do you plan on having people be able to spectate the race or some kind of observer mode?
It's not the case right now. Again, it's part of the things we might actually develop for the future, but it will not going to be the case neither at release.
Okay. All right. So I think that answers a lot of our Reno questions. Everyone can continue to ask them in the forums as well, and we'll keep trying to answer those questions for you over the next few weeks before it releases. But let's go ahead and move on to something not Reno or Game of the Year related, and that is, of course, our feedback snapshot. And Jorg, I know there were, instead of going through everything, we're going to just pick out some things that you have some updates on. So we're certainly on the wish list.
Yeah, Jane told me don't go through everything. So I made the animations in the spreadsheet. Look at this. So we'll just pick a few, just give an update. Okay. Does it work? Oh
no, it's not working.
Damn. Oh my god. Oh, my animations.
They're very nice animations. Everybody.
Okay, fine. So the first one was helicopters. I just thought, I know Seb is working on it. So Seb, do you want to give a quick update of what's happening?
Yes, so I mean we're just at the beginning for helicopters, but the goal is basically to update. It's just like we updated the flight model by taking out some of the hard-coded stuff and replacing it with tiny little surfaces that are interacting with the airflow. The goal with the helicopters is to make these tiny little surfaces being able to move very fast. Which means they become, I mean, they're going to move so fast I know, I mean, on a propeller, for example, a surface can do several spins in just one frame. So you can't just possibly sample one. It's basically a surface becomes a four-dimensional thing, like a trajectory. And so we've started simulating that. Something maybe people have never noticed, but when you currently in the sim, when you have wing flex, the wings animate exactly based on the amount of lift and load factor of the wings, but the actual surfaces don't move yet, because in the sim, except for control surfaces, they are really static. What the system is going to be allowing is that anything on the plane can move for real, and from there on, we're going to basically add a new system to make propellers. So the old one is still going to be existing, but a new system will allow us to have much more realistic propellers. And this is going to improve things like prop drag or when you go in reverse mode or all the specific things, or P factor is going to be more realistic and less guesswork for plane makers. And that work is going to serve on helicopters. So helicopters blades have so many different effects because, well, basically, One is, for example, when you move forward and the blades are spinning, one side goes faster than the other, and there's even an area sometimes on the blades where it goes the other way, and all these things need to be modeled, and the blades go up if there's a lot of load factor, and all this is possible now. So first step is going to be for planes wing flex, which is going to be really simulated with the surfaces going and moving, which slightly changes the lift direction and position. and propellers for planes. And while this is happening and bringing improvements for actual aircraft planes, we're going to be in the background beginning to create helicopters, get more experts involved and making them great, because there's so many complex effects to simulate then. It's not just about building the base simulation, but also about getting that right. And then last thing, which is really necessary for helicopters, because it's so heavily relying on that, but which will also improve planes, is improved 3D simulation of basically feeding back what the plane surface do into the airflow, so that you get all the turbulences created by the plane simulated at micro level around the plane. So that's what basically causes, I don't know if you have a 5-blade propeller, it's less efficient than a 2-blade propeller, because the blades just interact with each other and they're not just independent. And the same thing happens with the propellers and the blades of a helicopter, which creates turbulences, which then react. And basically, the faster you go, the more they move backwards. All this needs to be simulated and will feed back into planes. So, for example, currently something like deep stall is really more hard-coded. So we calculate where the tunnel is of turbulence behind a wing. And it's sort of, if the elevator gets in there, then you lose authority. This will be natively simulated once we have that simulation. So we're trying to make helicopters in a way that they benefit to regular planes and bring a lot of new improvements.
Great, thanks, Seb.
So this was the slightly longer version for that. Yes, we started, and we are also in the last 3 partners, like selecting which partner we're actually going to work with on helicopters going forward. So that's going. The next animation was about Chinese localization. I've been told that it's going to be done in January. So we probably ship this somewhere in February or so. Mm-hmm. It makes some folks happy. Motor screen functionality. Marcel isn't here today. He typically talks about this. Seb, do you know?
No, I don't have any update on this.
Nope. We'll wait for Marcel to come back next time. Replay missing. Well, we're going to do what we said we're going to do. We're going to put out the system that the video team is working as part of the Sim Update 7 on November 18th, and then we're going to improve the UI and the UX over time. Mm-hmm. But you'll have what we have. How about that? DX12 we talked about coming. Also just a few weeks away now. Scenery gateway system. We hired someone. Last time I said we wanted to hire someone. That person ended up taking another job. So we now hired somebody starting November 15th. So this is now moving forward. We have a spec.
Nice.
Some of you have helped us already. So that's great news. Can't wait. Gliders and sailplanes. I actually saw a bunch of comments. We have picked a partner. We will announce that partner on the next Dev Q&A. Mm-hmm. And I think there was a bunch of comments about what that means with thermics and clouds and all that stuff. And I think Seb is very well aware of these things. I can say that the partner we've picked, they are flight instructors. They know tons and tons about sailplanes. So they will be able to help us quite a bit about reading the clouds and all that is involved here. Seb, do you have anything you want to add to this?
No, you
covered it all.
Travel too much. Okay, there's that. South Korean is also going. I think it's slightly behind Chinese, but that's in progress. Man, Jane, I don't know what was animating, what wasn't. I think disappointing mountain terrain. I just want to explain this one more time. This is not some magic fix we will do. This is everything to do with the data set. Mm-hmm. And the data set gets improved all the time. You know, we've planned out the next 2 years of world updates over the last few weeks since we last talked. Mm-hmm. And I'm optimistic we'll get quite a bit of data that is like in the 1 to 3 meter range for them, which is a ton better. Like some of the world right now is 30 meters, which is why you see stuff that looks like potatoes instead of mountains. But so it's going to get, as we do world updates, this is going to get better and better.
Okay.
I don't know. I saw a comment earlier about AIG. It is true. We had obviously talked to the team. It sort of fell a little bit on the side while we were frankly crunching on getting the Game of the Year edition ready and the Reno Air Races ready. But this is something we're definitely going to do now that we have more time. Wakes for AI ships. is planned, but somewhere next year. I mean, I think it's all pretty self-explanatory. Maybe to the next page.
Sure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Italy World Update, when I put an asterisk, it's not planned exactly what you're asking for, but the spirit is understood. So it might not be exactly Italy, but, you know, we're looking at that region. Shared cockpit, anything to share? Seb, David, do you know?
Seb, maybe?
No update yet. I mean, we looked heavily at multiplayer for the Reno races because the planes get so close to each other. There's been a lot of work on that, and same thing for shared cockpits where you're even closer. So I think it's going to benefit from that, but it's no major update yet. Nothing to share later.
The next one we should talk a little bit about the ability to change meteorological visibility, RVR.
Yeah, I did not develop on this previously, but obviously it's something we are working on. The idea here is because obviously visibility is a super important factor for which is via the meta. So it's something we needed to really implement better in the sim. So we are still working on it, but definitely the visibility aspect is really taken into account, and we'll see how it will exactly land, especially on the UI side. But it's in the radar, and you will see great improvement on this side.
Yeah, the vegetarian slider, Seb, you talked about this before, coming with Sim Update 7.
Well, it's always been in the sim, so that's one question which I don't really understand. If you go into the options and you go into vegetation, there's low, medium, high, ultra. That's the vegetation render distance. So we can't add a slider where there's already size. I mean, we can make it a slider instead of a ultra, high, low, medium setting. Maybe the question is, can we have the vegetation array distance go further than the current ultra? That's something like that. So actually, when the current terrain distance slider, which goes up to 400, if you go to 400, it's also pushing the tree distance further, because basically when you set tree distance, ultra, medium, high, etc., it's really a scalar that's applied on the terrain distance. And so ultra just means everything we can do, like the maximum. And so by pushing out the terrain to 400, we actually also pushed out the trees already. So there's no really need for a new slider, and because we already have one, and the terrain tree distance already got pushed out with a 400 terrain slider. So what we could maybe do is push it even further, like have the terrain have something where the trees go further than they are currently, and maybe add a level above ultra for trees or something like that. But it's not a new slider; it's more like an expansion of the existing slider. But yeah, every update since like World Update has had a trim improvement and the last update too. So we're trying to push it further and further and further. Just taking advantage of the optimizations we do on the other hand, so that I would say performance stays more or less about in the same range now, and we get improved visuals as we move forward.
I'm seeing a lot of great questions. We still have a Q&A part here towards the end, but I think we need to move on to have enough time for what we have coming. So if that's all right, does anyone else have anything to add to the feedback snapshot? All right. All right, so save your questions. There's a ton I'm seeing in there that we will be answering in a second. But Jorg, I know you'd like to introduce.
Yeah, we have another partner that we want to introduce. It's going to join us today, and it is just as a preview. Next slide, maybe.
Here we go. We have Andre.
Hello, everyone. Hi, thank you very much for inviting. Well, actually, some words about myself. I'm a developer of AT simulations, and actually almost around 20 years in add-ons industry for Microsoft Flight Simulator. Science FS 9 times, I think. So, and the thing we want to show you today is updated Antonov 2 airplane for new Microsoft Flight Simulator. Yep. So this is a model. Actually, it's the aircraft itself, I think, need no additional introducing for aviation funds, for simulation funds. And this is a model. It was developed for FSX under SIP-Wings brand, and then for P3D under AT Simulation brand. And now we redone it with Microsoft and Asobo for new MSFS. So that's it, and soon it will be released. Maybe it's quite surprisingly for you and for community. It was announced by AT Simulations, I think, around a year ago. And I'm actually apologize for some quietness for my followers, for AT Simulation followers. So now you know the reason. So it was nice to have, it was worth to wait. And I do believe it's a very nice addition to your MSFS hangar. Oh, that's it.
Yeah, do we know, is it do we have an announcement date for this? Chat's wondering when it's coming out.
Yeah, so this is actually, so the announcement is multifold, right? So first off, when I met Andre, he told me the stories about the Antonov in Russia, that, you know, it's one of the few planes that can actually fly there in the winter because it doesn't have that many fluids, so it doesn't, you know, stuff doesn't freeze. Andre, for what it's worth, lives in Novosibirsk, and I love the authenticity that he brings, and he really loves the plane. So that's fundamentally why we wanted to work with him. This is actually kicking off a new series of planes, believe it or not. We will call them famous flyers. So these are, think about them as planes that we take very far, just like we did with the Junkers, and they will be coming out alongside sim updates. So what updates? Stay what we are. Planes from 1950 and before, related to a season, to a region of the world. Famous flyers aren't related to a region of the world, but they are fascinating planes, oftentimes, you know, record-setting planes, you know, largest, heaviest, smallest, fastest, you know, those types of things. So just sort of embracing the breadth that aviation really can bring. And then, Andre, when we first met, said, "Hey, I have fans and they want this plane." I was like, "Great, let's make it awesome." And but the planes are, as he said just now, they were patiently waiting without that much news. But we want to make sure it's done right. So, you know, it will be soon. But I don't want to have an arbitrary ship date. Like I want Andre to say, "No, it's great," and then we'll ship it. Like, but just know it's coming. We will price it as friendly as we have been with other things. So, I can say that now. It'll be $15. So this is a badass implementation of the Antonov, coming for $15 as the first famous flyer plane, and it'll come hopefully this year, if Andre can get everything done.
Oh, actually, I just can add that I have a list of things to done here. Yep. And as soon as it would be finished, as soon as every point would be underlined, so check it, and then it will be ready. I hope it's not much time to wait, actually. So for sure it should be this year. 2021.
I just saw a comment that I want to speak to, like something about the manual. So I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed the very long thread in the forums on the Junkers. I read every single thing, and it was super positive, and I love it. Thank you that you enjoy it as much as we do. Like, super great. And then people said, "Hey, but how about manuals?" And it's something. Honestly, we have the checklist system. We think the checklist system's good. I think core simmers like the checklist system, but would like the traditional manual. So we're currently working on a solution. I'll tell you this boy. Hans just hooked me up with someone that Hans has worked with in the past. That is a person that knows a lot about planes and loves writing manuals, and he is interested in working with us. So my goal is, even for the Junkers, all of ours Phoebing to do a manual. We're gonna deliver this. Don't know exactly when, but it's gonna come. And with planes like the Antonov, we're gonna do the same. So that is the goal. We heard you.
That's fantastic. I'm glad to hear that. Sure, the community is as well. So thank you. Anything else you'd like to share, Andre, before we move on to our Q&A?
Well, actually, maybe it sees some questions about the aircraft in the chat.
Oh, sure. Did you see a question?
Well, I just want to add that it will be not only wheeled version, so it will be on several gears, skis and floats, and several panels actually. This one old, such authentic, and second one is a bit more modern with GPS and things like that. So that's it. Goes to it for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Andre, for coming on to the show today. We appreciate it, and we're very excited for the Antonov. Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you, I hope.
Bye, Andre.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Andre. Bye.
All right, we will now move on to our final Q&A. I know we've had 2 already, but there's definitely plenty more questions coming your way. We have about 15 minutes, so we'll see if we can keep our answers shorter. We'll do our best. So feel free in the chat to ask questions. I also have questions here already pre-selected. I'll go ahead and start with the first one. Seb, can you give us an update on the status of the issue where avionics screen goes black after a long flight? Here we go. Spelled it wrong.
Yeah, so actually I'm not going to say more than what has been. I think there's been a post actually on this because I talked to support. What we found is that there was not just a bug, but 3 or maybe 4. The one is Xbox specific, and I think it's related to some memory leaks. Basically, when the system runs out of memory, it shuts down the glass cockpit. Basically the real cause is the memory leak that we need to fix. So we need to find which version of the console, which plane, when, get more detail and try to reproduce the memory leak, how long it takes also to actually appear. There was also an issue on some planes, totally unrelated, and probably on any platform, which is basically that on some planes, when you press the starter button, it doesn't automatically turn off. You have to turn it off. So it's probably a bug, so we're going to fix this so that it automatically goes off. But basically what happens is that then the starter stays on and it just drains the battery. And then when the battery of the plane is empty, you lose the screens. And there was a last issue, I think, reported something linked with some inputs, some devices. And so we're looking at all 3. There may be other issues, because if there's already 3, maybe something else, because we already fixed black screen issues in the past. And when you fix something like this, you say, hey, yeah, we can fix the black screen issue, and then people still have it, and then, oh, what's going on? So there's 3 things we found, and we're looking at all 3, and hope that's going to be it. But yeah, that's the status, and I think, yeah, there was a post, I think, on a forum or something.
Yep. Cool, thank you, Seb. Top question from the forums, that will we ever get cirrus clouds or maybe other type of cloud formations in the sim?
Yeah, I can take this. So cirrus clouds is really the clouds at high altitude, and that can take any form of shape. So currently you can, if you select the preset high altitude clouds, you already get cirrus clouds. You can set your own layer of cirrus clouds. You can play around with how they are scattered, how the coverage looks. It's but we don't currently. There's an infinity of number of shapes of clouds, right? So I think currently some of the cirrus cloud skies photos you can find on the internet, or when you look outside, you can do in the sim, and some others you can't. When they're super stretchy, or like when there's basically strong winds up there, you can't really stretch them out too much. And so this is something we're going to improve in the future. Currently, you can get some layers from, I think they call it cirrocumulus to like a little bit stretched cirrus, but not too much, right? All you need to do is have a thin layer and play around with the scattering. And in the future, our plans are obviously to improve everything clouds and sky. And so at some point, we're going to introduce more options to make them more cirrus. I don't know how they call them when they're longer, but more stretched cirrus clouds.
Do you think that would be saved for custom weather, or would it ever be implemented with live weather? So that question in chat.
So we are working exactly on this subject right now. It's what I was talking about, the way we interpret the data we receive from Meteo Blue. We try to be as close as possible to real life.
Yeah.
And typically the way we interpret the data we receive has been improved in order to reflect better the actual shape and width of the cloud. So still, it will still be in the context of what Seb just said, but we know that we have found some improvement in this. So hopefully you will see some difference, not only regarding the cirrus clouds, but on any layers of the atmosphere. We have improved slightly the how we represent the clouds depending on the data we receive. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. All right. So there is a shine shimmering on buildings and trees. So I'm wondering what you've found out about this issue and anything you can talk about.
So we found one issue which was causing shimmering. So there may be others, right? But one issue we found is that basically the autogen buildings have sometimes they have little details on the rooftops, like a small air conditioner or a little mesh of stuff. And these are displayed extremely far at a way too high LOD. So I think, first of all, it costs on performance and memory because we are storing and displaying these things. And secondly, is because basically the complexity of these things is so high that when our temporal anti-aliasing launches rays into the pixel at different locations, that's how it works, right? Your pixel, you cast a few rays, I think it's maybe 16 or something, at different locations, and then you average it and it gives you your pixel, right? When the mesh is so big and so complex at that distance, that you basically no ray ever touches the same thing, and every time you render this, you get something different because the mesh is so over detailed at that distance. You get that shimmer, right? You get so if you increase the render scale, it tends to reduce a little bit, but basically that's the lower the resolution and the lower the render scale, the more you see it, but it's always there a little bit. So that's one cause we found. There may be something a little bit similar with trees. And it's also obviously anything which is temporally composed, like reflections, may have that. But specifically on the buildings, it's caused because of that. So we need to look at basically adjusting the detail of these little meshes which are on the rooftops, so that they are not displayed when they're basically out of vision. So that's going to be fixing one issue. So we're looking at it. It depends really on the situation, right? In some cases, I barely saw it. I had to really push down the render scale, I think, to 30 and play in 1080p to really see it flashing. Then it's obviously visible, but it's not something which is extremely visible. That's why it's not as easy to locate. But this cause we found, and we'll look at it.
Great. Cool. Thank you. Someone from chat is asking about Xbox liveries, real liveries on Xbox, and if we plan on adding more in the future.
Yep.
Yes, that's correct. All right, that's a good answer. Okay, next question we have: will terrain shifting and morphing be investigated or fixed?
I think what we said last time has happened yesterday, right, with the release of SimUpdate 5. So one thing to understand is what Jörg said earlier. It's all very dependent on data and location. We have 21 LODs in every location of the world. And sometimes what happens is that you get LOD 21 to 15 from one data provider and then 14 to something from a different one. And it's not exactly the same data. And when you switch from one LOD to the other, you just, oh, it changes now. Basically, and the other thing is basically just because the resolution goes down, sometimes it can be happening at the edge of a cliff or something. Sometimes the vertex is at the top, and then you go further away, and then boom, it goes down. And so it really looks like a cut going up and down. Mm-hmm. So by moving the detail further away, that has been improved a little bit. And I've seen the first videos of people looking before and after Sim Update 6. It's a little improvement. It's less visible now. And basically, every time new data comes in, it also reduces and improves this. I would say in the longer term, when we have, it's something which is a bit longer to develop. We could look at morphing. Currently, I think they just switch, and temporal compositing smoothes it out over 16 frames or something, but it's pretty abrupt. We could smooth this out over, I don't know, half a kilometer or whatever, so that it becomes completely invisible. That's something which is a much longer development that we could look at as well. But I think also data improvement, quality improvement is going to improve that. But it can, so there's something where some people can say, I don't see it, and someone else can say, I don't see it. It's just because the data in the world, there's just so much of it, and it can be different, and it can be completely pop-free and super sharp in one area, and then there can be pops in another area.
Yeah, I mean, our goal is to have the best DEM representation of the planet you can get. Like, that is fundamentally what we're doing. It's not a specifically great science. You know, there's lots of, sometimes you see spikes that comes out of the raw data. So we're working with the Bing team quite a bit on making this. We're actually now setting up a new team. I think it's 8 people that do nothing other than getting new DEM data and new aerial data and making sure that it looks great in the sim. And then, as Seb said, it's most vulnerable at cliffs. Like, you see it very much at things like, Dover. And that, in order to get that really awesome, you need to be like at a half meter DEM. Now, England just published a new DEM, which is great. We're looking at it right now. But for Dover, for example, we modeled Dover. We literally, Gaia did. They modeled the cliffs of Dover to make sure that actually looks the part. Mm-hmm. It's hard to do this across the entire planet, but we are paying quite a bit of attention. Whenever there's a bug, we are trying to fix it right away. But the ultimate goal is probably a blend. Maybe a server can do some, this morphing tech where you basically just go over time and spread the popping out. But we need to get better data across the planet. That's it. And it's not going to be all tomorrow. Mm-hmm. That's why we do world updates, so we can actually focus on something. But we are working on it.
Well, this question is related from the forums. Is why do we have outdated Bing maps?
Yeah, it's interesting. The question is interesting. So it depends what you mean with Bing maps. There's 3 things. Mm-hmm. There's tin cities or photogrammetry cities. There's aerials, and then there's height field or DEM data, DTM data. So on the 3D cities, we are actually congruent with what they have. That might not always be so. As a matter of fact, some of the cities that we got for Flight Simulator, like, for example, so for Flight Simulator, we got things like Paris and Vienna, and sometimes I do my best to get the rights to make that also available for Bing. In some cases, the providers don't want to do that. I then begrudgingly optimize and say, okay, then it's Flight Sim only, which I don't really love, but it is what it is. So there are some cities that we have that are just on Flight Sim and not on Bing. Mm-hmm. There are no cities that are on Bing and not on Flight Sim. So there's that. Then there will be a time when Bing will have some cities that we don't have yet in Flight Sim, and that has something to do with that work has to be done to those cities to work in Flight Sim. Like, they have to be tree removal, we have to do a water mask, there's color corrections and some other things. And sometimes photogrammetry is great it's great for a bunch of things, but it doesn't really hold up super well for unique looking buildings like a tower or like an awesome church. So we oftentimes hand model those. And then in Flight Sim, what you get is a blend between hand modeled things and photogrammetry. So that's photogrammetry. Mm-hmm. On the DEM side, we are still the same. I would say Bing probably doesn't care about that nearly as much as we do, which is why we're building this new team now on the flight sim side, because the Bing Maps user isn't really landing on the height field, right? We do that, they don't. So but they benefit from us quite a bit, and it's a really good collaboration between the teams. And where I would say Bing is most interested is the aerial maps, and that's what they do completely on their own, and we benefit from that. We again have some cleanup to do. We run tree detection and things like that, right? So the Bing Maps is 2D, right? Or like 2.5D, right? It's a height field, there's a texture on it. We have 3D buildings and 3D trees, so we have work to do, right? It's not automated. So, but there can be slight differences, but fundamentally we try to stay as close together as we can.
Gotcha. That's a great answer. Thank you, Jorg.
Long answer, sorry.
Yes. Maybe possibly the last question here. We covered it a little bit, but will AI and live traffic be further developed by Asobo, or will other devs be helping out with it?
You guys want to say something about this?
It's a very Martial question, but I know we're working on AI and live traffic. So live traffic, one interesting thing is that live traffic goes through a similar system than multiplayer planes. Basically, for a client, it's just another plane. So you will benefit from smoother trajectories just from the work done on Reno. And there's the data sources, and also I know that they're working on improving basically sometimes a lot of data is missing, and we need to augment the data to be able to display the plane. Sometimes altitude is missing, sometimes destination is missing, sometimes they are like, sometimes there's a piece of trajectory missing. That's for live traffic. AI, I don't think we're doing much there. I haven't heard of any big improvements. We're more focusing on live traffic than AI. And Jorg, maybe you want to talk about planes themselves, the meshes?
Well, so I think we actually have some. So we have FlightAware, right? They have a bunch of live data, and we are currently not displaying all the flights in FlightAware, which is something the team is looking into. Then we talked about the actual meshes, which we are slowly but surely building our library of all the what we call passive planes, basically traffic planes. The thing where we need to be careful of is that we don't screw our frame rate, right? So there's a bunch of extra data coming in. Just imagine a big international airport and how many different planes are actually there. So it needs to be carefully done. So just know that we're on it. It's just like, so models are being made, livery contracts are being signed with a bunch of the airplane airlines, but it'll just take time, right? We don't want to do anything that basically you guys come back, it's like, well, the airport runs at 20 frames a second now. What the hell did you do? So we just need to be organized about it. But we're working on it.
Great, thank you so much.
I wanted to answer like a few questions.
Yeah.
Go ahead. So first off, because somebody said something that's near and dear to my heart, Offenbach. Yes. Yeah, I just want to say it. I'm from Frankfurt, right? So Offenbach it overlapped. They're right next to each other with Frankfurt, and we have to figure out how to do two. It's very unusual that we have two photogrammetry cities that intersect. So this is on the Bing side right now, but it bothers the living hell out of me. Trust me, my mom is from there. So it's like, yeah. And then why are we not using Google Maps? Well, that's a different company. So I think in general, I would say the Bing team, we are already, I believe, incredibly lucky that we can make this game the way we are, or this sim the way we are. We get all the stuff that the Bing team is doing for free. And that is really, there's only two companies in the world that can do anything like this, period, in my opinion. And then the Bing team has just acquired a bunch of new data that will it has to be processed. It takes actually a long, long time to process these cities. But I've seen the city list, and we will benefit from that in future world updates quite a bit. And those will be all 2019 to 2022 vintage. So pretty damn new. But you're right. Some of the cities we had at launch were from like 2013. So it's now, it's 8 years ago. But there's a lot of new cities coming. But so just be patient, just to know, like, you have to basically process the city, then it has to be cleaned up because there are some, there's some cranes that look terrible, right? So you need to actually, there's a team that does this. They can do 200 square kilometers a week. I'm trying to increase that capacity. And some of these cities are huge. When you look at these cities with all the suburbs, oh my Lord, it's like, 1,000 square kilometers for one big city. So it just takes time, right? So we're staffing up that team. As I said, there are 4 right now. We're hiring another 8 just to get faster on the processing of it.
Mm-hmm. Was there another question you wanted to answer?
No.
Okay. Got it. I know a lot of people are asking. There have been some online functionality issues as far as the service for the past day, specifically affecting live traffic, so it still may be impacted. And we have a banner up in our forums. Just we'll update that banner whenever we can, as far as when it'll return to normal. So thank you so much. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to say before we close out this Q&A?
Glad everybody's liking Sim Update 6. We're obviously in the forums. We look at Zendesk, as we said. So thank you. If you find anything that's not working, let us know. We'll jump on it. And then, yeah, I mean, November is going to be cool, right? So I think it didn't quite come through. It's actually essentially a Sim Update 7 that comes out in November with the Game of the Year edition. And then there's Reno, which is super fun when we play it. So can't wait to see you in the skies racing, Need for Speed and all that stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, everyone in chat. Thank you, the community. We are excited to come back in a month from now to have another Q&A. But until then, we'll see you around in the forums and on Discord and all our social spaces. So I hope everyone has a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye,
Thank you, everyone.